in San Francisco beginning Saturday. Bryant and Connect will also play in the Las Vegas Summer League, which starts July 12th. The Dodgers scored 2 runs in the bottom of the ninth with 2 outs for a comeback win over Arizona. The Angels lost by 2 at Oakland last night. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the fastest growing talk radio station in Southern California, home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach of 12 million listeners. KBLA Talk 1580 is a pioneer for Black audio content, including our groundbreaking $2 million climate justice campaign and the most loyal, influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Avitarus, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@KBLA1580.com. That's advertising at KBLA1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got your Black.
I'm gonna try to keep it coming. Things ain't always so, but I'll be alright long as I can find the good. Yes, I will. Somehow I know that I can make it. You shouldn't like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com, that's thetavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, more on Freedom Summer and the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act. We'll speak with professor and author Akanyele Umoja. That's in our second hour. In our third hour,
if I had a hammer, I'd a hammer in the morning, I'd a hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd a hammer out danger, I'd a hammer out warning, I'd a hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, all over this land.
Noel Paul Stuckey, one-third of Peter, Paul, and Mary on the music and artistry to help get the Civil Rights Act passed 60 years ago. This week, I look forward to being joined by the iconic Noel Paul Stuckey of Peter, Paul, and Mary in our third hour today. But in this first hour, 2 more conversations on the B side of this hour. We'll be joined in studio by Theo Henderson, noted advocate for the unhoused. We will, of course, talk about homelessness in America, but what I really want to get to is this recent Supreme Court decision, the biggest homelessness decision in decades now, permitting cities, get this, permitting cities to punish people for sleeping and camping in public places. Most experts believe the High Court's decision will lead to more criminalization of the unhoused. I suspect Theo Henderson will agree with that assessment. We'll find out when he joins us on the backside of this hour. We commence today's show, though, with our regular contributor, Connie Rice, on a Supreme Court gone wild, and not just gone wild, gone buck wild. Before I lose Connie at the bottom of the hour, speaking of all the talk about Kamala Harris, brace yourself. I'm going to offer you my 5 reasons why Kamala might not be the answer to the prayer. My 5 reasons why she might not be the answer to the prayer. We'll do that before we lose Connie at the bottom of the hour and get her take on my list of 5 reasons. But I, again, wanted Connie on today primarily, as I promised you a couple of days ago. I wanted to give her time to read that immunity document from the Supreme Court. Want to jump into 2 things with Connie. Her read on this immunity ruling by the Supreme Court giving Donald Trump broad immunity for anything he did while president. And then secondly, this case I promised you that I wanted you to hear about directly from Connie. It's called the Chevron case. We've been talking so much about the immunity case, given that decision by the court, but not enough attention focused on the Chevron case and the impact it will have on your life in the months and years to come. So we're going to let Connie get started and unpack those as she will. Connie, which case do you want to choose first? Is the Jeopardy board, immunity or Chevron?
Hey, let's take immunity for 10.
All right, immunity for 10. Go for it, Connie. Go for it.
Talk about Jeopardy.
Yeah, we are in Jeopardy. Yeah.
Real. I'm looking at Canada right now, but listen, you remember how we used to say no man is above the law?
Yes, right.
Well, forget about it. There is one.
Yeah.
It's called the president.
Yeah.
Because the Supreme Court just ruled that there is absolute immunity for intentional criminal acts that a president commits in connection with core presidential functions, and nobody can prosecute him. You can't bring any evidence. You can't bring a case. That's just, out of jail free card. And not only is there absolute immunity for core presidential functions like appointing ambassadors, under this standard, arguably, you could have someone who's a president and says, I want $1 million for the ambassadorship to England. I want $10 million for the ambassadorship to Japan. And the Supreme Court is saying bribery is illegal, but you can't prosecute a president who does bribery, and arguably murder. Yesterday I texted somebody, Tavis, it's a damn good thing I'm not president, because I'd have those QR Reaper drones heading to Mar-a-Lago and Bedminster today. If the president can commit murder, why isn't Biden launching the Reaper drones right now? I mean, this is a stunning decision, and I don't usually read from David, but I think it's important to hear what Sotomayor and basically, this is not just Connie getting hyperbolic and being a little bit dramatic, okay? This is Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. She says, if the president orders the Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, immune. He organizes a military coup to hold on to power, he's immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon, immune. The president is now a king above the law. And Justice Brown Jackson said, I don't know why the court is worried about being chilled and the ability to be a president. And we haven't had that problem for 240 years. Mm-hmm. But what she says is that the thing she's afraid of is that the danger here is not, the danger here is not of a president being so chilled that he won't act boldly. The danger is that this absolute immunity standard means the presidency can now be the seat of criminality. So Donald Trump and his organized crime ban may be poised to get back in the presidency, but the United States Supreme Court in this immunity decision, Tavis, has given him an AK-47 with bump stocks to basically annihilate the Constitution.
So the question is, and I posed this yesterday to one of our guests, but I've been anxious to hear Connie's response to it. As King once said, titled his book, in fact, the following: where do we go from here? What does it all mean now? Where do we go from here? What agency do we have? The Supreme Court serves for life. It is a decision. They've kicked it back down to the lower court. And we, the people, in every poll, study, or survey I've read so far, suggest that people are not happy with this decision. Then again, they weren't happy with Roe v. Wade being overturned either. This again, out of control, gone wild, gone buck wild Supreme Court continues to make decisions, and apparently there is absolutely nothing in real time that we can do about it. We know elections have consequences, so we're talking about this. But in real time, what can we do about what they have just done? That's the question for Connie Rice when we come forward. We'll get into the Chevron case as well. You're listening to Tavis Smiley, and I'm glad about it.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you can receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Oh, man. Looks like Bobby needs a ride to the airport again.
Grab the keys.
Who's taking Auntie and her friends to the swap meet?
Grab the keys.
How about we drop these boxes off at Miss Johnson?
Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, you're all about getting things done. So do it all in a Chevy SUV. From the versatile Equinox and Sporty Blazer to the roomy Traverse, our lineup of SUVs will carry you through every adventure. All you have to do is
grab the keys.
That's how we do. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% APR on all 2024 Silverado 1500, Blazer EV, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Colorado models. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment, 17.0%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/31/24.
Hey guys, do you want male performance in the bedroom and do you want it now? Get it in 47 seconds or less. For the first time, you can have instant male enhancement. Introducing Nox 47, the topical male enhancement that works in 47 seconds or less. Satisfaction guaranteed. Finally, after years of scientific research, our proprietary formula will allow you to perform in the bedroom like never before. Just imagine that little blue pill on steroids. No reason to settle and wait when you can get instant performance now. Forget about pills and potions that make you wait hours or up to 30 days to work. That's yesterday's news. Nox 47 is brand new. The hottest thing for men. And you don't need a prescription. Call now and get your free supply for a limited time.
To find out how to get Nox 47 for free, call now. 800-617-1621. That's 800-617-1621. Free bottles for limited time. Call 800-617-1621. That's 800-617-1621.
Let's get back to more Tavis Smiley right now.
In a moment, my 5 reasons why Kamala Harris might not be the answer to the prayer. We'll talk about that. We hope we lose Connie at the bottom of the hour. But we've been talking about this immunity case that we have all been talking about for the last few days. Was anxious to give Connie some space to sound off after she had a chance to read this document in its entirety, so we wouldn't have a surface conversation as many others have been having. But Connie, you heard me ask a moment ago, to my mind at least, the penultimate question, which is what can we do about what they have done? It gives me all kinds of angst that there's nothing, apparently no agency that we have in real time, obviously, to do anything about this, although this court continues to send down decisions that the majority of Americans just find consternation around. But what gives?
You know, first of all, Judge Shutkin now has to apply this standard of absolute immunity and determine whether Trump's actions with the January 6th insurrection constitute private behavior or core functions that are entitled to absolute immunity. In that evidentiary hearing, Tavis, she can do what the congressional committee did, is have full evidence of all of Trump's stuff right before the election. So there could be some evidentiary hearings that where she's determining how this new standard applies. But the second and most important thing, Tavis, this decision about absolute immunity and making the president the equivalent of a king, untouchable for even intentional crimes he commits during the presidency. With this king standard, what you need to do is understand the character of the president is now central and determinative. You can't have a narcissistic, malignant clown as president. You just can't, because this court has just given the John Gacy Republican Party a loaded AK-47 to do whatever it wants. come after their enemies, order the Justice Department to do fake cases against Biden and everybody, well, not Biden, but anybody but Biden. On and on and on. Just abuse of power across the board. Everything that Trump did and was investigated and impeached for is probably going to be found legal. So what's the backstop? The voters. This election is what has to keep him from taking the AK-47 the Supreme Court just gave him and using it. We got to keep him out of office so he gets tried on the remaining charges that he probably can be tried on because they weren't attached to core functions like national security and so forth. But this is devastating. It's devastating. And anyway, it was always going to be up to the voters to stop this from metastasizing. It's more so than ever.
Let me ask you this, and I want to put this in the proper frame because I don't want to suggest that our courts are political, although you know our courts are political. People can deny that all they want. We know what they are. It is what it is. But I'm wondering, given that we now know that this case involving Donald Trump, overseen by Judge Tanya Chutkan, is not going to get to trial before November. That we know. But to your point, which nobody's raised, which I want to interrogate right quick, are there, in fact, decisions that she can make or that will be made? Let me put it that way, because I don't want to, again, make her political. Are there decisions that you think can, in fact, or that will, in fact, be made between now and November, never mind the fact we won't get to trial, that could cause further harm, further damage, further embarrassment, further humiliation? Of course, I know what you're going to say. You can't embarrass or humiliate a guy like Trump. I'm talking now about the voters. Is there evidence based upon rulings that she can make between now and November, never mind the fact that we won't be in a trial, that might, again, provide more fodder, more data, more information, more evidence for people to see why this guy, again, should not be president given the ruling of the Supreme Court? Does that question make sense?
Yes, it does, and you're right on point because what the court has told Judge Chutkan to do is to apply this vague new standard of absolute immunity. Is he entitled to immunity for every single item in the indictment? She can hold a hearing on each and every indictment count and bring in evidence and witnesses and have everybody come in and testify, and then she can make a determination. But that evidentiary hearing can be public. It will be public. So she can hold an evidentiary hearing, and Tavis, that can really do some damage. The other thing that's going to happen, and it won't be because she wants to, it's because she's carrying out her duties as a judge to implement the Supreme Court's new standard. The second thing that could happen, and it's been postponed, is Trump's sentencing in the 34-count convictions for interfering, abusing business records to stop the voters from New York from understanding that he, had abused women even further than the Hollywood Access tape. So that election corruption hush money case, he's convicted on that. He's criminally convicted. He can get sentenced criminally for that. And I don't know what the judge is going to do in that case, given time. But he could get prison time for that case.
So that case that Connie's referencing now, the case involving the hush money payments, the Stormy Daniels case, the case in New York, brought by Alvin Bragg. I told you yesterday, breaking news. It was set. The sentencing in that case was set for July the 11th. It has now been postponed to September 18th. It was July the 11th. It is now set for September 18th. Connie referenced it. I want to give you the exact date. So September 18th is the day circled on our calendar in red when he will be back in court for his sentencing. That said, what I heard you say, Connie, if I'm correct, in answer to my question about whether or not there's anything that she can do between now and November to, again, shed more light on this case that might open the eyes of the American electorate, is that there could, in fact, be, and she would do it because the Supreme Court told her to do it. This is her assignment, her directive from the Supreme Court to decide which of these things he is immune from and the things he's not immune from. So there could, in fact, be, as I heard you say, a steady stream of evidentiary hearings between now and November, correct?
Could be, at least one.
Right.
It could be. Yep.
Okay. We will see. We'll see about that. The other question I have before I move to the Chevron case, and then finally to some conversation about Kamala Harris, given all these polls that are coming out that suggest that she is doing better against Trump in this moment than Biden. These are all polls, of course, nothing real. But I want to talk about that and why I think she might not be the answer to the prayer. That's my assessment. We'll see what you think about my list. That said, I'm wondering whether or not you think the end result of all these cases that continue to come out from this court that are just turning the stomachs of so many American citizens will in some way embolden Democrats and others for that matter, but certainly Democrats, to take this issue of reforming the Supreme Court more seriously. It seems to me that if this doesn't start to move the needle, this particular ruling on immunity, if this doesn't start to move the needle on people getting more serious about reforming the court, whatever that looks like, shortening terms, expanding the size of the court, there are a number of things on the table. My question is whether or not you think that we are in a moment now, in a frame, to use your phrase, right now, we can get more traction on that issue.
The Democrats can't even set ethical standards to force Clarence Thomas to stop taking $1 million gifts. I mean, come on,
Wow.
I'm not a Democrat, as you can probably tell. I just, this is pitiful. They could, Tavis, evidence that they're flying around on jets of billionaires and going to conferences and flying flags upside down, indicating sympathy for the insurrection. This is the United States Supreme Court that has turned into a MAGA sleeper cell. So no, I don't think the Democrats are going to take on the court. I do think that this is going to galvanize more than just the Democratic Party to start taking a hard look at this race up to. We're now in the fourth leg of a 400-meter relay, and they're starting to talk about Biden maybe needing to step down after that catastrophic debate performance. They better get their ducks in order fast.
Yeah. Let me ask you right quick about this Chevron case. I got a few minutes on that. Then we'll spend a few minutes on Kamala, and I will let you get on with the rest of your day. So for those who've not heard about this Chevron case, we haven't had any conversation about it. Just give me in a few minutes the top line of what this case is and why you and all the rest of us ought to be so concerned about the future implications of it.
Okay, so fishermen challenged the power of the Environmental Protection Agency to tell them they had to have somebody on board to count how many lobsters or whatever it was they were catching, and these fishermen said, you don't have the power to tell us to do that and make us pay for it. And so what this case overturned was a 40-year practice of courts deferring to the factual findings and scientific evidentiary findings of all of the agencies that make all of our laws happen. Everything from running Social Security, what computer systems to get your checks to your grandmother, all the way to clean air, clean water, nuclear regulation, all of it. We have an administrative state that makes all of federal action happen. Senators don't sit there writing regulations about what's a squirrel under the Protected Species Act. And Supreme Court justices shouldn't be determining whether, for example, is the abortion pill medically safe? Don't you think that ought to be about the doctors in the CDC and the FDA? No, what this court said is there should not be that deference. We're not going to have deference for regulatory findings anymore where the statute is vague. Well, Tavis, this Congress can't write every single definition of which animals are protected under endangered species. Is Flint's water so deadly that people can't even drink it? So what it does is it's going to slow down the ability of agencies to protect our rights, our air, our water, and even the Department of Agriculture trying to compensate black farmers for the agency's past racial discrimination. Courts can come in and say that's not in the statute, and it's not reasonable for you to do.
What Connie is basically saying is that this decision has taken the power and the authority away from the agencies who make these decisions based on real data, and now allowing judges to make these decisions who know nothing about what they're talking about. Again, this court continues to render decisions that are troubling, for lack of a better word, at the moment. All right, in the 5 minutes I have left, let me run you my list of the 5 reasons I think Kamala Harris might not be the answer to the prayer. There are all kinds of polls. I'm doing this in part because people keep asking me everywhere I go, texting me, calling me, stopping me on the street corner at the gas station last night. What about Kamala? What about Kamala? What about these polls about Kamala? There is some breaking news today. President Biden, according to the New York Times, has told an ally that he knows his campaign is unsalvageable if he can't convince the public over the next few days he's up to the job. So there is evidence now that the president is talking to people in the inner circle about this decision. It is on his mind. He is aware of it. He's talking to George Stephanopoulos this Sunday on this week, but it's on his mind. And so now there is evidence, according to the Times, that he is talking to his inner circle about what this decision would look like. But he is certainly engaged in dialogue, aware that his campaign is in trouble, and to Connie's word earlier, in jeopardy. My 5 reasons why Kamala might not be the answer to the prayer, why you should be suspicious of all these polls. Number 1, just giving it to you straight, no chaser, as I always do. Number 1, her numbers are up now versus Biden. Her numbers are up now versus Biden. Be clear about that. My point is that your numbers would be up right now versus Biden, given how much trouble he's in. So I'm not impressed with the polls that her numbers up against Biden in this moment. Number 2, there is no evidence at all that she can run a solid national campaign. You recall how badly she stumbled in her own campaign? There's no evidence at the moment that she can run a solid national campaign. Number 3, Kamala Harris is the new Willie Horton. She is the new Willie Horton. If you think those Willie Horton commercials were bad back then, wait till you see what we're going to get if she's the nominee. She is the new Willie Horton. They started running those commercials the night of the State of the Union speech, and they were effective. Number 3, here's my question. Do you believe that Kamala, I'm asking a question, do you believe that Kamala can count on the support of white women? Do you really see white women supporting Kamala over Trump? We have plenty of evidence of white women voting against their own best interests. I'm just asking you, do you see white women supporting Kamala over Trump? Just a question. And finally, the one you really don't want to hear, giving it to you straight, no chaser. The one you really don't want to hear. I suspect that Trump's black male numbers, for all the talk about black males and Trump, I suspect his black male numbers will go up. To what extent, I do not know. I ain't got a crystal ball. But I suspect his black male numbers will go up when they start trotting out her white husband. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. The second gentleman is always in the background. When they start trotting out her white husband, here's the choice that black men have. Do you vote for a white man, or do you vote for a sister who chose to marry a white man? White man or a sister who voted for a white man? I'm telling you, and you know this stuff as well as I do, that is going to be a serious rub, whether folk want to admit it publicly as I have or not. Trump's black male numbers may go up better then than against Biden. I've got 90 seconds, Connie, for a quick response. We'll talk about it more the next time you're on. But how wrong, how out of touch am I?
You're not out of touch. I think you're asking the questions that got to be asked. I would say that she's 2 behind Trump in this poll. And remember, a poll is just a snapshot that clarifies the questions and clarifies the issues that you ought to be looking at. So this poll tells us Biden's in trouble. It shows a 4-point drop between him and Trump. So he's now 6 points behind in battleground states. That's a catastrophe. That's why he's having discussions about whether he should drop out. Kamala in this same poll is 2 points behind Trump. And the one thing I would disagree with, white women wouldn't be supporting her.
Okay.
White women would be supporting their rights to control their bodies. We've seen in special election after special election, white women in Kentucky voting, and in Michigan voted for a Supreme Court justice who was a Democrat. So I think you've raised the right issue. We could debate the last one, but
We will. I promise when you're back on again, we will debate the last one. And I want you to be right about the white women. My job is to ask the right questions. I want you to be right about the white women, and I want to be wrong about the black men. That's what I'm saying. I want you to be right about them and me to be wrong about us. We shall see. We'll debate it next time you're on, Connie. Thanks for your insights. Good to talk to you as always.
Hey.
Take care. All right, you too. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Former President Trump's sentencing in his New York hush money case is being postponed until September. It comes after Trump's lawyers filed a letter with the judge looking to set aside the recent guilty verdict. The sentencing will now be delayed until September 18th at the earliest. The lawyers asked for more time to go over any potential impact from the Supreme Court's immunity decision, which gave Trump immunity for official acts in office. A reality TV star has reportedly died. Kiki Jabbar was one of the stars of Love and Marriage Huntsville on OWN, which follows the feuds of three black couples who are socialites in the city of Huntsville, Alabama. A statement from Jabbar's family was shared on social media Tuesday and said the 42-year-old star died peacefully at home, surrounded in love. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring. Robert Half is here to help. Their recruiting professionals utilize their award-winning AI to connect businesses with highly skilled talent. At Robert Half, they know talent. Visit roberthalf.com/talent today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers have agreed to give Bronny James something that most second-round picks in the NBA draft don't get: a fully guaranteed contract. Terms of Bronny's contract have not been released, but whatever final terms are negotiated, LeBron's son will have a guaranteed deal. The guarantee means Bronny will not be signed to a two-way contract, which limits the dollar amount and the number of games for an NBA rookie. The guarantee also means that Bronny, the number 55 pick in the draft, will have one of the Lakers' 15 roster spots. Bronny and first-round pick Dalton Knecht will play for the Lakers rookie team in the 3-day California Classic in San Francisco beginning Saturday. Bronny and Knecht will also play in the Las Vegas Summer League, which starts July 12th. The Dodgers scored 2 runs in the bottom of the ninth with 2 outs for a comeback win over Arizona. The Angels lost by 2 at Oakland last night. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
If we're the ones disproportionately impacted by these climate catastrophes, why should we be silent? Turning up the volume all year long on the climate conversation for KBLA Talk 1580.
Eggs are a staple in our diet, and there's only one egg with more delicious farm-fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best. With more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties: classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today.
Texting enrolls you in recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T.
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text LION to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text LION to 42424. That's LION to 42424.
Reggie was a nurse for 16 years.
I had become very burnt out. I wasn't making good money.
Then it happened.
There was an ad for My Computer Career, and it just spoke to me.
My Computer Career was the best decision he ever made.
I could study anywhere from my laptop, and I was working in the first couple weeks of me being in class.
Reggie hit a home run.
The field is teeming with jobs.
Become an IT pro in just months with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
The school is amazing.
It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu. This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
We thank Connie Rice for that spirited conversation and look forward to her returning in our debating the issues on my list of why Kamala might not be the answer to prayer. I could be wrong. It's the first time or last time. Plenty of times I've been wrong in my career, but plenty of times I've been right. But the point is I am open to any robust debate about anything I see on this program. I can handle it. I put on my big boy drawers every day, and I can handle it. So bring it. Would love to hear your response as well. Happy to hear from you on this program or any of our socials with your thoughts about anything I or any guest on this program ever has to say. As promised, our conversation now live in studio with Theo Henderson, noted advocate for the unhoused. We will talk about in a moment here houselessness in America. But as I said earlier, what I really want to get to is this recent Supreme Court decision, the biggest homelessness decision in decades, frankly, the decision that now permits cities to punish people for sleeping and camping in public places. Most experts agree that this high court's decision will lead to increased, more criminalization of the unhoused. I suspect, and I no longer can suspect, I see him nodding his head right now in agreement. He ain't even said nothing yet. I was about to say I suspect that Theo will agree with that assessment. Indeed he does, and I'm pleased to welcome Theo Henderson, advocate for the unhoused here on the West Coast in this studio. Theo, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well considering the situation, and I thank you again for having me on your show.
It's my delight to have you here. Let me just jump right in. When you heard this decision, this ruling, what did you, as an unhoused advocate, make of it?
Well, I went through the stages of grief, and I'm currently going through them as well. The first thing was in a stunned silence, a shock, because my mind's eye went back to the issues that I was struggling when I was unhoused, and the things that I needed to do to survive, and to have the Supreme Court upend all of that. Also upend the Martin versus Boise's decision on cruel and unusual punishment ruling to target unhoused people. It's the slow genocide. We're currently up here in Los Angeles called 6 unhoused people die a day. I'm looking up on the KBLA's signs that says unapologetically progressive. If I was to put 2 words together, it would be unapologetically harmful. And that's going to do a lot of damage to people that are going to try to survive, but also advocates that are trying to help unhoused people navigate out of houselessness into an unhoused status.
That phrase you use is arresting, that what we are experiencing is the slow genocide of the unhoused, the slow genocide. Let me just take those 2 words and separate them and give you a chance to unpack them. Let me start with the latter, genocide. We are in a frame right now where there are those who are afraid to use the word genocide as it relates to what's happening in the Middle East, as you well know.
Congo.
And Congo. Thank you, sir.
Sudan.
And Sudan. I can do this all day long if we have the time. The point I'm making is that it is a loaded term. It is a term that makes people lose their minds, pull their hair out. People go crazy when you accuse them of engaging in genocide. So my two questions are, why do you use the word genocide? It's a strong term, as we say.
Indeed.
And number two, who are you accusing of engaging in genocide?
Well, the first term is the term because we have been inundated with the images of the conflict that is going on overseas and in other parts. And we have been educated in some respect about seeing violence direct pinpoint. Where I mentioned how I feel this is the term that's accurate is because most people don't realize we are in this kind of conversation. That 6 unhoused people have died a day, and many people don't know because we have the trappings of normalcy. We have the trappings of going about our business or the conversation or the propaganda of rugged individualism. So when we really talk about houselessness, we talk about it as an individual disappointment or failure in their eyes, and they deserve to be out here. We also use terms as worthy unhoused, people that fit the bill that they should be helped, and other unhoused people that should not be. And in turn, what that does is creates this kind of chasm that causes those kind of terms that what I say the genocide. Yes. Now, when I say the slow genocide, this is what I mean. It's because of the trappings of normalcy and the propaganda machine that we have. The blame is really sorely on how we are educated about houselessness in our country. We are a society that believes shaming and blaming, but we also have this idea that people can do it by picking themselves up by their bootstraps without understanding the context of it. We have, as African Americans, we have a high rate of houselessness, but we don't want to have the conversation of why that is. It's easier to say, well, I did it, why can't they? But we have to understand redlining, we have to have systemic racism, we have to understand the incarceration index, the prison to the pipeline conversation. It doesn't just only trickles into housed people's lexicon. It also is a reality that we right now have is a high spike of elderly black men that are unhoused. And that conversation needs to be had as well.
We will have it in a moment, I promise you. Before I have that conversation, though, I use the word lexicon, great word, because people have noticed, I have a very smart audience all across the country, and they have no doubt noticed that you only use the term unhoused as opposed to homelessness. This case is being covered as a case about homelessness, and I used that term earlier along with unhoused because that's how the Supreme Court referred to it, homelessness. But why do you use the word unhoused versus homeless?
And also to point out, you also use houselessness as well. So
yes, I did. I used both because I knew I was talking to.
Yes, you did.
But I want the audience to understand.
For my eyes, that's a very big improvement.
Yes.
But then remember, I was mentioning earlier in our conversation of how our society has been indoctrinated into looking at houselessness in the context of a kind of discombobulated kind of dynamic. For example, homelessness is used as a pejorative for many unhoused community members or used as a blaming kind of apparatus. And when like I say, unhoused, I utilize it because this is what I want to be called. And we are in an era now of speaking for agency, speaking for the right to be termed the way we want to be termed, and conversely then how society has been used to lockstep calling homelessness or homeless people this or vagrants.
So for you, homelessness is these days a pejorative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's always followed up with the most negative of conversational point. Now, that is not to say that there are some homeless individuals that wish to be called that, but there are also people that wish to be called displaced. There's also people that want to be called ruthless. But the reality of it is we're living in a time where we must understand and respect people's agency and their own realities of their own situation. And if we can do that, then we've advanced the conversation, but we also can advance the solutions to what the people that have the lived experience have.
When we come forward with our guest in this studio and in this hour right now, Theo Henderson, advocate for the unhoused, I want to ask him directly, how and in what ways does he see this recent Supreme Court decision leading to greater criminalization of the unhoused? What's that look like? Number one, given that you heard him say twice already in L.A. where we sit right now, 6 folk die every day on the streets. Every day, 6 a day. And we just keep on doing our business as usual here in L.A. And we ain't the only city. Well, that's true. I'm just sitting in L.A. right now where Theo resides and where I reside. But one, what are the ways in which he sees this decision leading to a greater criminalization of the poor? And then because he challenged me to have that conversation, we'll have it about black men, black elderly men in particular. You're listening, I'm glad about it, to Theo Henderson right now on Tavis Smiley.
From the Merck Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number and put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement. Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
A Gain Scent Bead story. Jim was at the laundromat when he heard his ear said, "Maraca, senor," but his nose said, "Hey, freshest scent ever." Following his nose, Jim found a man pouring a bottle of Gain Scent Beads into the washer. The scent, the freshness. Jim blurted, "Sir, your scent Maraca smell amazing." Actually, Jim, most noses call them Gain Scent Beads. Try Gain Scent Beads. Way fresher than detergent alone.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
Happy anniversary, KBLA! KBLA Talk 1580 is now celebrating 3 years of amplifying our voice and uplifting our community. We deeply appreciate your support of this radio station and will always do our level best to earn your support. Here's to many more years of loving and serving our community. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
If you're an adult in need of an accredited high school diploma, the Los Angeles Public Library can help. You could earn one for free in as few as 5 months, online with 24/7 access. You also get a personal academic coach, plus special training focused on 9 in-demand industries, as well as a resume and cover letter to advance your career. Visit the website.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Theo Henderson. It's T&T right about now. Tavis and Theo and Tavis, talking about this recent Supreme Court decision about the unhoused, which makes it easier for cities now to be punitive and pejorative and to punish these persons for sleeping or camping in public places is what Theo Henderson calls a slow genocide. And hard to argue with this terminology. A slow genocide is what Theo calls it. I'm watching my time is getting away from me. Let me hasten to ask you, first of all, the ways in which you think this decision will in fact lead to a greater criminalization of the unhoused, Theo.
Well, I'm going to make the answer succinct because time is always against us. Basically, what our city has is that we have 4118 prior to the Supreme Court decision. But what that decision with 4118 would do was that you had to offer an offer of shelter, an offer of a solution.
Explain very quickly for those listening across the country, since you're using an LA term, 4118. Explain that right quick.
4118 is the new Jim Crow, and I mentioned this on several of my shows as well, is that it is against the law for unhoused people to sit, sleep or lie with the signing of a posting of 4118. And what that means is that any police officer can come by and tell this person to move, and they must move.
So you're saying on top of 4118 here in L.A., and other cities have their own versions of 4118.
Yes.
Just wanted you to explain it. On top of that ordinance, you're saying this decision by the Supreme Court is going to make things obviously much worse.
Actually, it negates 4118 because they don't have to offer shelter. They can just pull up on you and say that you have to go. And they don't have to offer shelter. They don't have to offer any services. They tell you to leave, you must leave. And if you don't leave, then you go to jail, which also contributes again to that prison pipeline kind of apparatus that's been the conversation in the advocacy circles as well.
Mm-hmm. What then? Here's the difficult question, which I'm sure you can handle. By the way, I was going to mention this later. I'll mention it now because I'm looking at his T-shirt. Theo hosts a very fine, award-winning podcast, in fact, called We the Unhoused. It's a podcast, or wherever you get your podcast, go look for it. It's called We the Unhoused, a podcast by Theo Henderson. So he knows what he speaks, and he speaks of these things all the time on his own podcast. I'm pleased to have him right now on Tavis Smiley. Let me ask you right quick, again, watching my time. Why do you think that cities across the country have turned such a blind eye to the unhoused? Everybody knows it's a serious issue. And I'm not naive in asking, what's your sense of why they become, here's my word, not yours, so hostile to those persons sleeping in public places?
I agree, and you raise a very good point. The reason why they're hostile to unhoused community members is because of the fact that it requires them to care, and they don't want to care, and they don't want to expend a lot of the financial responsibility that requires us to be able to be part of the solution. The easiest thing to do is to criminalize. If you can demonize an individual or people, then you can criminalize them. And that has been shown through history in our country, and that is why it is so important when I say the increase, we need to be aware as a community, especially our black community, that this is targeting unhoused black men, and also I have to say black women as well, but more higher than the black men because of the inequities of financial inequities and all of the other issues that revolves around being targeted as an unhoused person. You get criminalized, you always are going to have to fight the legal system. You're going to have to fight going into getting housing. You can't get housing if you got a record. And we constantly, like for example, in Tennessee, it is now a felony to be unhoused if you in 6 years. So imagine coming out of that being unhoused, and then you have to find a house, and you can't or apartment or a place to stay because you're unhoused. So in essence, it creates the cycle, and it worsens and deepens much more deleteriously as I can possibly explain.
Theo Henderson dropping bars. If you can demonize them, you can criminalize them, says Theo Henderson. Hard to argue with that as well. In our remaining moments with Theo, we'll go to that part of the conversation, the black part, the black male part more expressly. You're listening to Theo Henderson on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive, unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is a nonprofit law firm that protects and advances the rights of the most underserved, leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone can have access to the justice system. Every year, LAFLA provides free, high-quality legal services to more than 100,000 people living in poverty across greater Los Angeles. Their unique combination of neighborhood offices, self-help centers at courthouses, services and domestic violence clinics puts Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles on the front lines in vulnerable communities and at the forefront of change. LAFLA's expert team of attorneys, paralegals, and support staff works to provide direct representation, offer counsel and advice, provide referrals, and educate the community about their legal rights through workshops and seminars. With locations all over LA, you can access their services or volunteer to help no matter where you live. And if you have an urgent issue, call 213-235-0060. That's 213-235-0060. To get legal help, make a donation, or volunteer, visit lafla.org. lafla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
The most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Theo, you will love this. One of our listeners just sent us a message. They're everywhere, but I think you'll like this. I hadn't thought about it this way. If a person who is a convicted felon can still run for president, then perhaps we should be removing from that box from all applications.
Absolutely.
For jobs, for houses, for anything else. If you can be a convicted felon and run for president, don't be asking me whether I'm a felon and I'm trying to get a house or trying to get a job if he can run for president. I digress, Theo.
Absolutely. That hits the nail on the head.
Yeah. Tell me in the 3 minutes we have left about the increasing numbers of black men, elderly black men, amongst the unhoused population in this city of L.A. and, frankly, across the country.
I was going to say, yes, this is a trend that's happening because if we remember, we have the vestiges of the Three Strikes Law, and many of the community members that have been released have been facing an uphill battle. And the uphill battle is the background checks, and also because of the fact that the background checks always preclude due to racism as also be having a record, it makes it much more difficult for black unhoused community members to find lodging. To add on to that, too, we have to understand, too, they also have limitations due to whatever the parole or probation that they have to do, that they must follow certain procedures or certain kind of situations that require them not to be in certain areas or certain places or certain jobs, which incidentally I noticed DeSantis in Florida has made it much more difficult for recently incarcerated people that want to engage in salon work or being a barber. And that also contributes into limits many of the unhoused community members, particularly unhoused black men, from finding viable work and to be able to move forward from their crimes or from their realities of being incarcerated. Because we don't look at them as marketable, we look on them as they consistently are down. And what this is now the winter is upon the head of a lot of the elderly black men. The limitations of ageism, we need to be honest about that. That is a reality. We also dealing with the issues of the criminality, the records. We also have to deal with the reality we're living into a racist conversation. But we also have to live with the rent is too damn high. And excuse me for cursing, but the reality is the wages are stagnant and the rent is too high. So it's very difficult to sustain oneself, even if you aren't incarcerated. But even much more difficultly, this is the conversation that really needs to be advanced more.
I close on this note very quickly. People know that I was the force behind a book 20 years ago called The Covenant with Black America. When the Covenant book came out, it shot to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, the first book by a black publisher to be #1 on the Times list, made all kind of history and sold millions and millions of copies. It's been 20 years, believe it or not. That book is coming out this summer. The 20th anniversary edition will be out this summer. And 20 years ago when we did the book, there was not a particular covenant about the unhoused, homelessness, pick your term. It was a subject matter back then, but it hadn't risen to the top of the African American agenda. In the 20th anniversary edition, there's a whole new segment that we have written now about the unhoused population, given specifically what's happened to black men. You'll see that when the book drops this summer. But the point is, a lot has changed in 20 years, and I'm glad that Theo Henderson's on the cutting edge of why so many black men are now the face of the unhoused in this country. Once again, this podcast is called We the Unhoused, a podcast by Theo Henderson. Check out his podcast wherever you can. Theo, thank you for your work and your witness always. Good to have you on this program.
Thank you again for inviting me. I look forward to meeting in the light of understanding.
Yes, sir. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Former President Trump's sentencing in his New York hush money case is being postponed until September. It comes after Trump's lawyers filed a letter with the judge looking to set aside the recent guilty verdict.